and see johnroofer.com.
The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
All right, folks, welcome to the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrot Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. We're online at tjmshow.com, and don't forget you can follow us on all of our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. You can also listen to us on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN, and you can take us anywhere. Tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that, no questions asked. You can also watch us and listen on multiple platforms, our YouTube channel at Joe Mangiacotti Show. You can do it on Facebook, Twitter, as well as LinkedIn and even Twitch TV. Check it out. You can join the conversation anytime at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. You can also text the show in real time on our text line, which is 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com, and it appears on the same screen in real time. First of all, happy Hanukkah to all of our friends who have who kicked off their celebration and now doing that. We're listening to the president today talk about the newest the newest variant headed our way from Africa. And we'll have more on that in other shows. But today is a special edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. 8 days from now, we will mark 80 years since that day that will live in infamy will be remembered. The Imperial Japanese Navy is steaming towards Hawaii, American soil in the calm waters of the Pacific Ocean. And on the morning of 7 December 1941, 183 aircraft on the Imperial Japanese Navy attacked the United States Naval Base at Pearl Harbor on the island of Oahu, Hawaii. The first bombs hit American waters, land, buildings, and equipment at 7:55 a.m. local time, catching most by surprise this early Sunday morning. Like a bolt of lightning out of the blue, and within 2 hours, 18 U.S. warships had been sunk or damaged, 188 aircraft destroyed, 2,403 American servicemen and women killed, launching the United States into World War II, changing the lives and course of America forever. Pearl Harbor was the most important American naval base in the Pacific and home to the U.S. Pacific Fleet. In strategic terms, the Japanese attack failed. Most of the U.S. fleet and aircraft carriers were not present at the time of the attack. That's a conversation for another show. And the U.S. was inferior in aviation strength and technology at that time, something that would change very quickly and in a short amount of time. For centuries, the nations that controlled the oceans with superior navies, in fact, controlled the world. But what very few knew and believed was demonstrated that early morning. That air superiority was just as important, maybe even more important, than naval superiority. Although the U.S. has had the United States Army Air Corps since July 2nd, 1926, we didn't have the current U.S. Air Force until September 18th, 1947. But there were many who urged the U.S. military and government to put more resources, equipment, and training, and of course, aircraft into the fighting forces of the United States. Men like General Billy Mitchell, known as the father of the United States Air Force. His constant warning of not looking to the sky for military superiority eventually earned him the nickname Mitchell the Agitator. As he tried to prove that airplanes could actually accomplish the things that he had been forecasting against, he proposed a number of daring innovations for the air service that stunned the non-flying Army generals, like a special corps of mechanics, troop-carrying aircraft, a civilian pilot pool for wartime availability, long-range bombers capable of flying the Atlantic, and armor-piercing bombs. He encouraged the development of bomb sites, ski-equipped aircraft, engine superchargers, and aerial torpedoes. He ordered the establishment of aerial forest fire and border patrols. General Mitchell maintained, quote, "If a nation ambitious for universal conquest gets off to a flying start in a war of the future, it may be able to control the whole world more easily than a nation has controlled a continent in the past." But there were some very visionary civilians who knew that air superiority was just as important, or maybe even more important than naval superiority. And this led to the creation and the establishment of the Civil Air Patrol. The origins of the Civil Air Patrol date to 1936, when Gil Rob Wilson, World War I aviator and the New Jersey Director of Aeronautics, returned from Germany convinced of impending war. Wilson envisioned mobilizing American civilian aviators for national defense, an idea shared by others. In Ohio, Milton Knight, a pilot and businessman, organized and incorporated the Civilian Air Reserve in 1938. Other military-style civilian aviation units emerged nationwide, training for homeland defense. In 1941, Wilson launched his perfected program, the Civil Defense Services, CADS. That summer, tasked by Fiorello LaGuardia, New York mayor and director of the Federal Office of Civil Defense, also a World War I aviator, by the way, Wilson, publisher Thomas Beck, a newspaperman named Guy Gannett, proposed Wilson's CADS program as a model for organizing the nation's civilian aviation resources. Their proposal for a Civil Air Patrol was approved by the Commerce, Navy, and War Departments in November, and CAP National Headquarters opened its doors on December 1st, 1941, under the direction of National Commander Major General John F. Curry. And this was just days before the attack on Pearl Harbor. With the creation of the United States Air Force on 26 July 1947, the command of the Civil Air Patrol was transferred from the United States Army to the newly created Air Force in October of 47. A Civil Air Patrol board convened to meet with United States Air Force officials and plan the groundwork of Civil Air Patrol as the United States Air Force Auxiliary. And on August 28, 2015, General Mark Welsh, Air Force Chief of Staff, announced Civil Air Patrol officially a member of the United States Air Force's total force, joining the regular Guard and Reserve forces as American airmen. CAP's work in response to Hurricanes Katrina, Sandy, the Deepwater Horizon, and of course the work done over New York after 9/11 and other emergencies has continued to demonstrate the cost effectiveness and potential of dedicated volunteers who embody the CAP motto, Semper Vigilance, always vigilance. Joining us today from Massachusetts Wing Civil Air Patrol are Colonels, Lieutenant Colonels, Charles Neudorfer and Elaine Neudorfer. Colonels, good afternoon, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and joining me here in the studios of WCRN.
Thank you for having us.
Yes,
we
thank
love
you.
to share the information.
Well, that's fantastic. You are Colonel Elaine Neudorfer, your Director of Administration. Colonel Charles, you're Personnel Director at Mass Wing?
Other
Or is it
way
the other way
around.
around?
Other way around.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. You sat in the wrong chairs. Very good. In full disclosure, I spent many years in my youth in Civil Air Patrol as a cadet from 1979 till which time I then became a senior in the program as a first lieutenant at Mass Wing and left the Air Force Auxiliary as a captain, I think in 1992. And what's interesting is in the history of Civil Air Patrol, there was that point in the 80s where it entered an agreement with DEA and Customs to fly flights. And I spent 2 years flying grid searches out of Anscombe Air Force Base looking for plot fields in Massachusetts.
Yes.
And we didn't do great the first year. I'll be honest with you. The Air Force was like, you guys, good try. But I'll tell you something, the second year DEA was very, very much impressed once we kind of got it down. And I can tell you from experience, the hemp plant has a very distinctive green hue from the air.
Yes.
And then you can see the paths and that go out into the fields. Of course, we're talking 40 years ago, a very different time. Marijuana was still considered a serious drug at the time, and we were serving a purpose. But nonetheless, let's talk about it. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourselves. You are husband and wife and have been associated with Civil Air Patrol for a very, very long time. We do have to take a quick break right now, but when we come back on the other side, you can tell us this Civil Air Patrol romance situation, and we'll take it from there. 508-871-7000 if you'd like to join the conversation. If you have a question for either the colonels, would like to know anything about Civil Air Patrol, that's fine. 508-871-7000, and don't forget our text line at 617-297-8388. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Be with us Back in a moment. I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know they now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani has been providing courteous service for over 40 years with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
Cheryl Ann Gingle co-founded the Be Like Brit Foundation. She founded Be Like Brit to honor the memory of her daughter, Brittany Gangle. Brit died tragically during the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, along with approximately 300,000 others. To honor Brit's life and her commitment to those less fortunate, the Be Like Brit Foundation works to fulfill their vision to raise a new generation of leaders in Haiti. Please take a minute and visit belikebrit.org. That's belikebrit.org and learn more about our mission and see what your help has accomplished and will do in the future. Make a difference. Be like Brit.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Boxdrop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388 or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. You can join the conversation, 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. 8 days from now, we celebrate, or we mark the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor as America was launched into World War II. But just days before that, a civilian organization was formed and officially opened its doors on December 1st, 1941, called Civil Air Patrol. And it was made up of civilians who recognized the importance of both air superiority, but also the observance from the air. And that was very important. And joining me in studio from Massachusetts Wing Civil Air Patrol, Lieutenant Colonels Charles Neudorfer and Elaine Neudorfer. And first of all, you two are married and have been in Civil Air Patrol collectively basically 5 decades.
Yes.
Tell us
Yes.
a little bit about your background.
Well, I joined CAP in February of 1971, just before my 17th birthday, and I've been a member ever since. Went to college then went into the Air Force. And when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas. And I kept my membership up in Civil Air Patrol, and that's where I met Elaine. And
And you were in CAP at the time?
Yes, I
Okay.
joined in 29 February, that infamous date of 72, and had just gone up to wing headquarters, which is where I kind of met him. He kept flittering back and forth between wing and a local squadron.
So was it at first sight, Colonel, what's up?
No,
Was it
no,
flirt-
not quite.
flirtatious?
We didn't get along initially, but the friendship
developed.
developed.
Okay.
And over the years,
Who outranked who?
Well, it
well, it
depends.
depends.
If you
That's
go
it.
cadet wise, I outrank him. I got my Amelia Earhart and made cadet captain. He only got his Billy Mitchell first.
And I made
Ah.
first lieutenant.
Okay. I did go up to Earhart. I got lieutenant colonel actually when it became
Right.
a senior.
Right.
So I didn't get the spots, but there was a kind of pressure to get up to wing staff right away. So
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
my first lieutenant and moved up to mass wing.
Right.
And wanted to get me into the public affairs job up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you met, and how long after that did you marry?
Just
Of-
2 years, a little over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
In the
40 years.
in the 40 years between, I had gotten married,
Oh, the
divorced.
plot thickens. Okay. So you actually knew each other back then and
Oh, yeah.
went
Oh,
off
yeah.
and had your own lives.
Yes.
Yes.
Then found yourself both a single
Yep.
later in life and
Yes.
just married a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think CAP probably has a lot to do with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We've learned how to work together well as a team, and that's what a large part of marriage is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. That's crazy. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're still
Thank
kind
you.
of newlyweds. So let's talk a little bit about Civil Air Patrol, because this was really something, that people from LaGuardia to Billy Mitchell to the different businessmen that saw this happening said, look, we really need to use the civilian pilots.
Mhm.
And coming, there was a kind of a couple of drafts of this, right? As I laid out in the monologue, there were these kind of civil aviation groups popping up around the country, and it was really bringing it together for the Civil Air Patrol that got its blessing from the War Department and the
Right.
government,
Mhm.
and it opened up its doors. But to think about this being formed 6 days before Pearl Harbor, before we were actually officially in the war,
Yes.
Right.
many would argue we were all but in the war, for 2 years.
Mhm.
Okay. And we were just kind of waiting for that thing to happen.
Right.
And unfortunately, it took 2,403 lives
Yes.
to happen. What was some of the tasks that Civil Air Patrol performed at that point in World War II?
Well, it actually really started because Germany U-boats, their submarines, were blasting our oil tanker ships as well as other ships, and we were losing a lot of sailors, both U.S. Navy sailors as well as other commercial sailors at sea. And so Sun Oil Company, as well as a few others, got together, and there was a large patriotism of the country, that people that weren't available or meet the standards of the military, that still, I got to do something for my
Right.
country.
Right.
And they banded together, and
Mhm.
that's what helped create the Civil Air Patrol, or these from 36 on, these other groups that just got to do something for my country. And so that's the body of people that started it, and got to do something.
Right.
Everybody's got a little
Right.
tiny cog and spoke in the
Sure.
cog.
So you might have been 4F and you couldn't have joined the Air Force, well, the Air Corps or the Army
Right.
at the time, but you may be your pilot.
Mhm.
And now you have these oil tankers being attacked. And I don't think people realize how close German U-boats, submarines, were off the coast
Oh, yes.
of
Yeah.
the United States. And
Right.
there's points in history that we know that German operative actually came ashore, say off the coast of Maine, getting
Yes.
that close in, coming in into American soil from Maine.
Yes.
And we were able to, if you were to fly at 1,500, 1,800 feet, as long as they're not that deep, you can actually see that ship under the water if it's fairly close to the surface. And that gave a lot of intelligence, and it helped save a lot of these tankers. So it's interesting. It was the private money from the oil companies that said, we'll throw a little money at this to get these civilians together to pay for gas and oil and things like this and get these planes up.
It was a 9-month experiment that is still ongoing yet today.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And
some of the best are.
Some of the local history, how Massachusetts ties in, is that we had Coastal Patrol Base 18 down on the Cape. It's just off the property of what is now Joint Base Cape Cod. And there's a marker where the Coastal Patrol Base is or was located down on the Cape, and that was dedicated 5 or 6 years ago. We still have a squadron on Joint Base Cape Cod.
Wow.
And it's called the Coastal Patrol Cape
18.
Coastal Patrol Base 18 Squadron, and it's got a huge name.
Yeah.
But it's
very rich in history.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I see. And this so the function then at this point, because you have this going on now there was some target towing and things. So I mean, now the military said, okay, we've got this assist, right? We got a little assist on the home front. They're picking out U-boats for us, which of course the military I'm sure was thrilled about to get that intelligence. And we had pioneers in aviation like Billy Mitchell and Lindbergh and these other people who, they were saying, hey, this is it. And we had instances of Mitchell, didn't he sink an old decommissioned ship or something?
Yes, he did.
What happened there?
He
because he had to prove it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he was on a mission.
He was on a mission to prove it. And the Navy had plans to scuttle an old ship. I don't remember which one it was.
Right.
But he got a hold of an airplane, had a couple of bombs on it. And
in his lap. Yeah. Right? He just threw them out the side of the plane.
And he basically did that. And he flew out to the ship, threw the bombs out, and he sunk the ship. And for that, he got court-martialed.
Well, yeah.
And reduced to rank to colonel.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, as the war progressed, he was reinstated to his his 1-star rank, and he retired as a brigadier general in the U.S. Army Air Corps or Air Forces. I forget what it was called, but and Civil Air Patrol has its one of its contracts, one of the achievements that the cadets have to go through, named after him.
Yeah.
And when a cadet earns that award, the cadet becomes an officer.
Yep.
Back in my day, when I earned the Mitchell Award, I became a cadet warrant officer.
Yeah.
And I wanted that silver pip. Yeah. The rank insignia was a gold pip for warrant officers.
You're right. It was the gold pip, and then it was the silver, the 2, 3, and then we went to diamonds, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So
and but the Mitchell Award is still there.
Yep.
And it still marks a high point in a lot of cadets' progression, I'll say.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I only made it to first lieutenant because I was in college at the time, and I was more interested in getting through college.
Yeah, well,
than progressing in the cadet program.
Sure.
But I've been able to keep my membership up all these years.
That's incredible. That is incredible. And there was we're going to have to take a break here in a minute for bottom of the hour, but I know one of these guys dropped a bag of flour on the top of a munitions plant, proving the point how easy it was for aircraft to cause damage that ships couldn't do. Right. And again, pointing to the superiority of air over naval. I think you need to have the two. And what's interesting is here are now looking at who controls space will be dominant as well.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the United States Space Force.
Yes.
And this is, natural progression. So I'm sure at some point we'll start combining these agencies when space travel becomes kind of Star Trek-ish.
Yeah.
But folks, we do have to, Colonel? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're already there. With our current search and rescue, we do over the horizon imaging. To me, if that's not,
That's
you know,
incredible. More on that. We do have to take a break, but we'll pick it up when we come back because I didn't know that. And that's really cool sounding. All right, folks, you're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show. And we're talking about the Civil Air Patrol as we approach December 1st, the anniversary of Civil Air Patrol, and of course, the 80th observance of Pearl Harbor on December 7th. 508-871-7000.
I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News. President Biden says there is cause for concern, but not for panic, as he talks of efforts being made against the latest coronavirus variant, Omicron, which emerged in the past few weeks in southern Africa.
And we'll fight this variant with scientific and knowledgeable actions and speed, not chaos and confusion.
Biden adds it's more than likely cases of the variant will show in the United States.
I think it's almost inevitable there will be at some point that strain here in the United States.
Biden has called on the roughly 80 million people in this country still not vaccinated to do so, and for others to get their booster shots. He is also encouraging everyone to go back to wearing face masks in all indoor public settings. Top infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci says scientists could know in the next week or two how effective the vaccines are against Omicron. I'm Tim McGuire, AP News.
I'm Dr. Andrea Russo, a cardiologist. Maybe you're waiting to talk to your doctor right now, but if you're having an irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness, don't wait. This could be a serious condition like atrial fibrillation, which can make you about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. If you're having these symptoms, don't wait. Talk to a doctor by phone, online, or in person.
Brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Staying healthy isn't easy, especially during the holidays. Watching your diet, staying active, managing stress. But a good night's rest helps boost your overall health and wellness. And it couldn't be easier. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed senses your movements and effortlessly adjusts to both of you. The result? You wake up ready for anything. Bring proven quality sleep home for the holidays. It's our Black Friday sale. Save 50% on the new Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed, plus special finance and Cyber Monday. Special financing subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See store for details.
This is Full Service Radio, AM 830, WCRN, Worcester, Metro West.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Vicki Graff, and here's your latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. After a cloudy and cooler day, we're going to cool off into the mid-20s overnight tonight, so certainly a cold night ahead. For your Tuesday, still sunshine mixing in with some clouds, highs getting into the upper 30s, but a warm-up is on the way by the middle of the week. We're looking ahead to some rain moving through by Thursday. I'm Vicki Graff, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
Another fabulous Friday in New England. I'm Ted A. It is November 26th. Last week, the United States Department of the Interior formally commenced the construction of a wind farm off the coast of Massachusetts. This week, the department approved another off the coast of Rhode Island. Around 1 a.m. this morning, SWAT team members and the Massachusetts State Police were containing one man in a house in Brockton. By 6 a.m., the perpetrator surrendered to SWAT and was taken into custody. The traffic is back, and so are the bad actors on the road. Be careful, and if you are going out to shop, please shop locally. The WCRN News is brought to you by John the Roofer, a leader in the roofing and home improvements business for more than 70 years. Call 866-906-ROOF or go to the internet and see johnTheRoofer.com.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388 or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. His tears cure cancer. Too bad he never cries. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
For this Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000, 508-877-7000, or text us at 617-297-8388. In studio with me are a couple of colonels from the Massachusetts Wing Civil Air Patrol, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Neudorfer and Lieutenant Colonel Elaine Neudorfer. And we're talking about Civil Air Patrol, which officially opened the doors December 1st, 1941, days before Pearl Harbor. And it was the cumulation of civilians and military people who, like Billy Mitchell, the father of the Air Force, who was saying, hey, we've got to pay attention to the air. That is where the future wars are going to be fought. And now we're seeing space as a vital part of that. And just before the break, and you had said something about Colonel Neudorfer, you're both colonels, Colonel Elaine, about over-the-horizon imaging. And that is very Star Trek-ish. And, of course, I'm going back to my days in search and rescues where I would drive around with the DF equipment in the trunk and get the call, and we would, we were using, FM 2-meter radios to communicate, and the satellites would pass over. I think it was every 47 minutes. One of them was tuned to 141.5 megahertz. 121.5 megahertz,
Yeah.
and it's 243 for military.
Right.
For what they call an ELT, which is an emergency locator transmitter, which upon impact would just send this beacon out. And that's often what we would be doing. We would get this beacon, commercial aircraft were tuned to it, air traffic control towers were tuned to it, satellites were tuned to it, and it would get the signal. Depending where it hit, then National would activate that state.
Actually, is the AFRCC, Air Force Rescue and Recovery Service, is the one that will call whoever the local area is where that they believe the beacon is.
And activate that
right.
state.
So it is an actual Air Force mission.
Yeah. Okay. And in Civil Air Patrol kind of swings into action. So in my day, it was boots on the ground with DF equipment.
Yes.
And we would track it with triangulation and following the signal. Spent a couple summers in University of Pennsylvania at NERCOM learning how to do that, Northeast Region Communication School. Now you tell me the technology is just phenomenal.
Yes.
Yes. Well, back in my day, we didn't even have the directional finding. We just went door to door to ask, hey, have you heard or seen anything out of the unusual?
Yeah.
And
tarmac checks, right? Checking the
as well as to people's homes.
Yeah.
Just
Crazy.
like the police do for shootings or whatever.
Which we should let me tell people that, see, sometimes a private pilot would have a rough landing.
Yes.
And he would actually designate, he would trigger that ELT, and he would not turn to 121.5 as he should before, turning down and powering down. And he'd get out of the airplane with the beacon on, go home, and here's this thing going off, tying up the United States Air Force satellites, airplanes, and activating an entire wing of searchers while he's having a cocktail watching the 6 o'clock news.
Yes.
And has no idea that 3 hours ago when he had that little rough landing, he triggered this off.
Yeah.
And you might find it by just taking a walk down the runway, down the tarmac.
Well, also, we've had a Jumbotron display at one of the major football fields be malfunctioning, and the malfunction happened to be on 121.5.
Oh, my goodness.
I've had a photocopy machine in a bank malfunction and put out that radio signal. And so it's not just...
Well, I got one for you. So this was sometime in the 80s, and get the phone call. We have an ELT signal, and everybody, it seems to be coming from Waltham, Massachusetts. So we're meeting in downtown Waltham, and I had our squadron. I belonged as a cadet to the Thunderbolt Squadron in Framingham, and I had the equipment in the car. And I get up there, and he's saying, "Well, I doubt a plane went down in the middle of Waltham and no one noticed, right?"
Yeah.
So we know we're looking for something that's not a crashed airplane. And I get off and fresh back from NERCOM, and so I'm hot stuff here, right? I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm following the signal, and I get to a body shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep telling the colonel who was in charge at the time, I think it's in the body shop. And he's like, well, why do you think that? We have to set up over here and do it in England. And I'm like, it's in the body shop. Well, it turns out in the basement, we went down to bottom. We wake up the owner at like 2 a.m. He comes down, and under the building was a garage. And sure enough, we open the garage door, and what's sitting there is a fuselage to a Cessna.
Yeah.
And no wings or anything, just the fuselage. Yeah. Well, his grandkids were playing there all day, and the ELT was still in the fuselage.
Right.
And and what they couldn't figure out is we would get the signal, and the next satellite it was gone.
Yep.
Right.
And then I couldn't find it, and then it came, and then finally it was steady all evening.
Yes.
Well, the kids didn't know it. They were playing pilot, right? So they're turning the ELT on and off all afternoon, driving everything crazy. Yeah. And they left it in the on position when they went for the day. So things kick in. Oh, yeah. So now it's midnight. We were there, and we find it at 2 a.m, and the guy has to, turn off the ELT, and we took the ELT from him. But what was interesting is my commander at the time, a guy named Paul Fairbanks, later on when we were doing a mock mission, and he had volunteered. I didn't know his plan, but he was kind of funny guy. And he told Wing, it was, let Thunderbolt take care of the target and do it. And they're like, yeah, okay. Nobody ever volunteers for that. You guys take care of it. So he told me, come on, we're going to Waltham. He had a big yellow truck, right? And we went up. He had made arrangements with the body shop owner to take the fuselage. And we took the fuselage, put it on the truck, and drove out to western part of Massachusetts. And cadets and us, we dragged it out into the middle of the woods and then walked up a crash site.
Okay.
And that's what we used that fuselage, the guy, and he thought he was in so much trouble when he shows up, and there's 25 people in uniform standing around his business, and he's like, what is going on? He was happy to lend it to us. So we created a mock crash site using the old fuselage. And dragging that through the woods was not the easiest
I'm
thing.
sure it wasn't.
I can tell you.
We've also had one malfunction from the manufacturer that was on board a train going cross country. And yes, Civil Air Patrol followed it across country. We finally got the train to stop and found it.
Wow.
Not too many people can make a train stop wherever it's at, but we can in that scenario.
Yeah.
Also had a farmer out in the field, had a Doberman picture where the dog found the ELT device. Don't know, but it became his favorite toy.
Okay.
And the dog was tossing it in the air, playing it.
And was it turning on and off?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
And
that's that when that happens, it's got to be something strange. Like right.
Getting that back from the Doberman was not. Yeah.
It's not like taking it from Teddy. It would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
Now the other thing is when it's in the sea, in the ocean, it's called an LPERB, right?
Yes.
All right. So it's the same principle.
Yes.
And this hangs, folks. So you hang it in a ship, and only if it exceeds 45-degree angle will it go off under the premise that the ship is sinking and now it's floating.
Yeah.
Well, we had one case that it's going off again, same scenario. I have the car, I get dispatched, I go up to Gloucester, Massachusetts, and we're right on the coast there by Gorton's or Groton's or Gorton's, whatever. And you have all the fishing boats are coming in, and it's going. It's right there. And we had a heck of a pilot. I remember his name, Herman Baca. And he was flying out of Hanscom, and he was so good. He was coming down low. Of course, you coming out of Logan, you have to get special permission for air traffic. And I remember a couple of times when Logan wasn't granting it to Civil Air Patrol pilots, and the next thing they get a call from the United States Air Force, Maxwell Air Force Base, and they said, the FAA calls them and says, you're going to give them permission, and they get it, and you hold up whatever you have to hold up. We have to stop this because you can't turn it off, right? You can't turn off the search until it's turned off. So anyway, we get there, and Hemmenbach is telling me there are 3 boats. I think it's in the 3rd boat. That's how good this pilot was. And I go to walk through the big door to this fishery, and woman, whoa, you can't come in here. What are you doing? You can't walk through it. I explained to her who I was. I got to do this. Nope, insurance won't let it. And so I I'm saying, wow, they're really giving us a hard time. Well, I go down the street a little bit, and and you have the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, a satellite right there, and go in there, and I'm gonna have to take a break. But I'll tell you the rest of the story. I walk in, and they had the monitor for 121 turned down.
Right.
So the officer of the day, I get a hold of him. He was not happy about that at all when he walked down the hallway. He took me down the hallway. I'll finish the story in a minute. We got to take a quick break here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show, and we'll come back to the phones. Ken, hold on. We'll come back to you on the other side. 508-871-7000. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Stick with us.
If you enjoy listening to Full Service Radio AM 830 WCRN, don't forget you can stream WCRN on your computer or on your phone at WCRNradio.com and on your Amazon Alexa by saying, "Alexa, listen to WCRN." On the radio, in your car, on your computer or phone. We are Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that moved the head and feet, and then I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online at boxdropmiddlesex.com, and ended up with a better mattress, a power base that also heats and massages, all for less than half of what I was going to spend at the other place. Boxdrop is a discount mattress store, and John specializes in clearance and closeouts, and he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-792-2088.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388 or email textjoe on the radio at gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. He brings a knife to a gunfight just to make the odds even. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
Got it. All right. Welcome back to the final segment here, this Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. I'm Joe Mangiacotti from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. And we're talking about Civil Air Patrol as we approach the 80th anniversary, December 1st, of the official formation and recognition of the Civil Air Patrol, which is the United States Air Force Auxiliary. And the story I was telling before, just quickly finish it. So I go down in Gloucester to the Coast Guard station. Officer of the day is not happy. They're not listening to 121.5 as they're supposed to. They literally have it turned down. And we go fishery here where those boats were, And she still was going to stop the Coast Guard. Now, we don't have the power, at least Civil Air Patrol at the time didn't have the authority to fine or anything. Coast Guard does. And he told us straight out, you will be out of my way or I will fine you $1,000 a minute that you delay me. Well, the old man that owns the whole thing was watching all this and said, no, you go right ahead, what you have to do. And all it was is it was on the third boat. That Hemmenbacher was absolutely correct. And one of the fishermen was told to hang up the new LPERB, and he didn't really understand. And he hung the new one up, took the old one out, and just put it on the bunk, vertical. And of course, that set off, and that was what tied it up. And we found the captain having a drink in the pub down the street, and we took care of it. But it's crazy that these accidents or mishaps or just simple happenstance things, you got to understand, is actually tying up a national network.
Yes.
Because once this is detected, till it's solved, whatever it is, the mission is on. It's an active mission because it could be a downed aircraft, a sinking ship. It could be any number of things. And they even have personal emergency beacons now, right? Which people can carry. 508-871-7000. Let me jump to the phones. Ken's been waiting patiently. Ken, good afternoon. You're talking with the colonels from Mass Wing, and we're talking about Civil Air Patrol.
Good afternoon, Joe, and thank you for your guests and your service. And I have a bit of a story given this 80th anniversary, because while she wasn't a pilot, my mother had a role in the early stages of this organization in World War II, literally manning a watchtower in Sterling, Connecticut, watching out for German planes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of the function of CAP in those days were watching the coast at night, not just flying, but watchtowers and posts along the coast, the ocean, and as well as taking flights and looking for the U-boats.
Yes.
Yeah.
We also did fire watch for the forest. There were about 6 or 7. We did courier service.
We've even in recent, well, I don't know about recent, but I remember we had done organ flights from time to time.
We call them blood runs. We're flying blood tissue, and sometimes actual organ tissue to wherever it is urgently life-saving needed. Both Colonel Charlie and I have participated on that out of Kansas, which is where we kind of started that program. I know some people will debate that back and forth, and that's a wonderful debate. But yes.
Well, yeah, Ken, was your mother in Civil Air Patrol, or she was volunteering as a watchtower person?
She was volunteering.
Yeah.
So she spent most of her time, obviously, in college at the time. She was a freshman at the time that Pearl Harbor occurred. And so she would come home on weekends or in summertime. And if she was asked to, she would go up in the tower for a number of hours.
Wow.
Looking out. Unfortunately, she never did see a plane.
Yeah.
And because it was largely ships and submarines that posed a danger off the coast.
Right.
But there was just countless people like your mother who were performing these functions. And again, I don't think people realize just how many, and yes, we weren't technically in the war until December 7th, but they were off our coast. They were infiltrating our borders. They were coming ashore. In Maine seemed to be the real big point of entry and prior to the entry of the war.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Ken, thank you very much for the call. That's a great story. Anything else?
Well, and interestingly, she didn't even recount this until about 3 years ago. Having passed away a year and a half ago, I'm so glad that she was able to give us a little history and what role that she played during that time.
Yeah. Well, she was probably like many people who just didn't talk about, even if it wasn't, seeing battle in the arena type of thing. But people tended to just do what they did and then got on with their lives.
And a lot of folks just felt like it wasn't that big of a contribution, but yet
it was.
If she was able to radio, people in the water, we really started saving a lot of lives when we started being able to get radio reports out. So somebody could go out and fish them out of the water.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
she
I think-
played a very important role, Ken.
I think in her case, she took it lightly because she happened to have a neighbor in the area who, as soon as Pearl Harbor occurred, like much of the young men at the time, jumped right in.
Mhm.
And upon leaving, told her, "I don't expect to come back," and he didn't. So that's
Oh, wow.
just how seriously
Yeah.
it was back then. So
Yeah.
for her, she played a minor
Right.
role.
And her perspective was this was nothing, a minor role that I
Right.
played. Yet it was a very important role that all these people played. Ken, thank you for the call.
Thank you.
No cog is too small.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So this so now Civil Air Patrol's role, I mean, many the technology exists today. You're talking about over the horizon imaging, using cell phones for triangulation and tracing people when you got people missing. And of course, I don't know. So you tell me, because there was a very thin line that we didn't cross in my cadet days in search and rescue missions, from search and rescue, and if it became any hint of a criminal thing,
We
we
still do not get involved.
Right,
Once we hear those words of
it's an investigation.
it's an investigation, we suspect foul play.
Boom, done.
CAP is out of it.
Mhm.
Right.
Like the military can't do law enforcement under the Posse Comitatus law. That applies to Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah. I remember years ago we were looking for a little boy that was lost in the Rosendale area, and we had all the squadrons, and we were doing. And this is, guys, this is when you do a line search.
Yes.
All right, and this is when you're doubled out on your arms,
Mhm.
and you walk slowly through a field in the woods with a stick, a flashlight. You're turning everything up, and
Yes.
you blow a whistle or you raise your hand and yell if you find anything unnatural. I'm talking candy bar wrapper,
Yes.
anything that doesn't belong in nature. You stop the line, and this happens. And we were doing this, and then it became a criminal investigation. And all of a sudden, it turned to, they think there was foul play, and of course, we immediately ceased our involvement. And I remember finding out from my commander at the time, who learned that they were aware that it was probably foul play for a while.
Okay.
But they weren't ready to determine that. So
Yes.
they allowed us to continue under the
Right.
thinking it was, well, they got their ducks in
Yeah.
order here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Civil Air Patrol won't be involved in any
Yeah, we
criminal
cannot.
investigation
Right.
within. But if it is a search and rescue, it will done. Now, have there been any success stories this year, and any in Massachusetts we would like to know about?
We have, per the AFRCC, we have saved 12 lives
Right.
since 1 October
Right.
of this year.
Wow.
We go by the military fiscal
Right.
year.
So 12 in 2 months.
Yes.
All right. That's it.
And we oftentimes go 100, 150 a year.
Wow. In Massachusetts, a couple of them were within
We
the
ha-
Commonwealth.
Last year we had 2 saves in Massachusetts. Here in Massachusetts, we didn't know anything about it, which was kind of ironic.
Right.
But it was our National Forensic cell phone team that
Yeah.
actually found them. But we got, we have 2 saves from Massachusetts. And last year we had over 100, maybe 120, 130. I don't remember the exact number.
Got it, folks. So
Nationwide.
let me ask you this: if people are interested in Civil Air Patrol, how do they reach out to the Mass Wing State? How many squadrons are there throughout the Commonwealth? Are there local ones pretty much in each geographical section of the state? How does that work?
Yes, you can go to gocivilairpatrol.com, and that is a national website that anybody can get onto. And there is a drop-down tab, find a squadron, and put in your zip code, and it will tell you. I believe there's about 15 in the state of Massachusetts currently. Those numbers go up and down, life.
Right.
But as well as I did not. I'm a bad cadet. I was not prepared with a phone number
Okay.
for our person.
I'll get it. I'll post it on our social media as well.
Yes, yes.
But I want to thank you too for coming in and joining me as we take a look
Sure.
back at the anniversary of Civil Air Patrol.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. It was a great organization that served me very well. I think it taught me great leadership and
Mhm.
management skills that I carry through to today. And,
Yes.
Yes.
and I had a great time in it. All right, folks, that's going to wrap up the Monday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Dropbox Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'll be back Thursday morning for Political Thursday with Jerry Dort, and of course, back on the weekends. Follow us on social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, folks. Joe,
Thank you.
out.
You too.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.